Hey guys, Xlice here. Cyberpunk Collab is finally here in 3.4, which means everyone is getting a free Rebecca and Lucy is available to summon. In this video, I'll break down everything you need to know about Rebecca, how to play, how to build, how to team, how to Rebecca. Disclaimer on screen since this is creator server, and with that out of the way, let's get into it. So, Rebecca is designed to be a universal sub-DPS that grants extra bonuses to Lucy. Her outro skill is a 15% damage amp buff and a stacking heavy damage amp bonus as well that caps out at 35%. These bonuses are active for any incoming resonator, but Lucy gets the max amount of heavy attack damage amp instantly, so no need for her to ramp up. This design makes it so that Rebecca is still useful for your roster, even if you're not interested in pulling Lucy. If you are interested in Lucy, then make sure to pair these two together, plus any generic sustain, including Verena, Shorekeeper, or Bornea, and you're good to go. So, Rebecca's gameplay is all about guns blazing. Her ult is a heavy machine gun. Her normal abilities have two modes, one in dual pistol mode and one in shotgun mode, with the skill that switches the modes. Let's break down combat and rotations. So, here's an example of rotation in action, acting as a sub-DPS right after Bornea's setup. She leads with intro and instantly enters her ult, then we simply just hold our left-click button while she blasts her heavy machine gun while time is stopped in her ult. Then we can echo skill for free damage, and then fill her normal forte with basics, skills, and dodging. There's no required rotation here, so just spam until the forte is full. Then we can enhance heavy, and she should be able to outro, and her rotation is complete. In full speed, this is what that looks like.
Structure override initiated. Come on! Get ready for fireworks! Yo, look alive! System sync.
As you can probably tell, she's having a lot of fun guns blazing. Now let's break things down step by step. So her forte has three things. There's the gun icon. This is the mode that she's in. Turquoise is going to be dual pistol mode. That's called Huntress. And then red one is called shotgun mode. It's called Guts. These give different buffs depending on the mode, but they are balanced to give near identical DPS, so you can play with whatever mode you like. Dual pistol has higher range, and shotgun mode is closer range. The purple bar is her normal forte called Fervor, and there's also another bar underneath that's a multicolor ticking down slowly called Hot Hand. That one is important. When it's multicolor and ticking down like that, she will have both buffs of both modes active at the same time. So 30 crit damage and 15% ignore defense. When it's a single color and charging up, she only gets bonuses in that specific mode. When she's off field, this specific bar will show up on her tooltip, so you know when it's charged up. The next time she intros and she has a full bar, she will immediately activate multicolor mode and give you both buffs. So her rotation starts with intro and immediately ulting. These two abilities will activate all relevant buffs present during her entire kit. Her intro will activate weapon buffs, puts her in dual mode buff state, and then applies the hack debuff. And then her ulti gives her and the team 20% attack. The hack is simply a flat damage tune break mechanic that is specifically for Cyberpunk characters. Don't stress too much about that. It's kind of like Rupture. Her ult is kind of similar to characters like Cho Yuen, who want to ult immediately to boost their damage and the next resonator's damage simultaneously. Ideally, this will be Lucy, but technically anyone can receive it. Her ult puts her in heavy machine gun mode, time will stop, and she will automatically start firing. It has a super sick UI, and you can move your camera within reason. She automatically does damage during this time and has a new forte that stacks up with each hit. You can speed up the damage by holding her basic down, so it charges up faster, and once fully charged, she sends her explosion. The total damage should be the same whether you let it auto fire or not, so it's really just about saving IRL time. When she's out of ult, just blast around with her basics and her skill, which switches modes, and dodging around till she has full forte. She has a special dodge called Tactical Dodge, which deals damage while dodging, and it feels really nice to use. You can basically weave it in between basic attacks, and it doesn't stop her basic chain. For me personally, when it comes to a rotation, once I'm out of an ultimate, I'll switch to pistol mode if I'm not in it, and weave those range attacks to fill forte. Shotgun is closer range and might be better to parry, so play around to see what you like. Once her forte is full, simply enhanced heavy and her outro should be ready. Alright, so that basically covers her entire kit. You're gonna swap in, you're gonna ult for team attack, you're gonna pew pew until forte full, you're gonna enhance heavy, and then outro. All relevant buffs and applying her tune hack will be done during that rotation. Super cool. Alright, recap on the outro and tune break. So her tune is the hack, and it acts like tune rupture, just flat damage that can happen once per 8 seconds. Outro is gonna leave a turret behind for 14 seconds, or just 4 seconds for Lucy, but it's 3.5 times stronger. and grants 15% damage amp and stacking heavy amp to the incoming resonator. The total comes out to 15 damage amp and 35 heavy amp, with Lucy getting the 35 heavy amp instantly with no stacking required. Battle nodes for forte priority, nothing surprising here, it's just damage scaling to look out for. Ult will be the largest source, then forte circuit, and basic skill intro. Refer on screen for exact priorities. Now let's take a look at her build, starting with weapons. So her signature has 500 attack and 72 crit damage for base stats, and gives the holder 12 attack, 24 plus 12 basic damage bonus, and gives the team 24 attack. For the holder benefits, she just needs an intro skill and inflicting hack, which is automatically done through that same intro. So she instantly gets max weapon bonuses on rotation start. It's a pretty standard hybrid weapon for a sub DPS, granting about 48 stat to the holder and 24 to teammates. Other possible weapons. Linnea's Spectrum Blaster is pretty good since it also grants basic damage bonus, 12 attack, 36 basic damage bonus. She just won't be doing 8% team damage increase. Besides that, either standard pistol's okay, granting pretty generic bonuses. So static miss is better if she's buffing a main DPS like Lucy, and phasic homogenizer is better if she's acting as a main DPS. And then finally, a Battle Pass Solar Flame is the best 4-star option for the crit rate. Otherwise, use any other 4-star you have. They're going to be stepping stones until you get a 5-star weapon. Overall recommendations are going to be on screen. Now onto echoes. So the Cyberpunk collab brings a pretty easy echo system, only requiring a single forecast, a new Atom Smasher to activate a 1-piece set for full value. In total, you're going to get 15% crit rate for using it on the main slot, and then also 35% damage bonus on inflicting hack from the 1-piece set bonus. You can combine this with two 2-piece sets of any attack or electro combination, and you're good to go. Double attack, double electro, or 2-piece mixed are all fine. Substats are way more important, so focus on those. For main stats, we're gonna go crit 4 cost, which is usually crit rate, electro or attack for 3 cost, and attack 1 cost. All of our crit rate will usually come from our echo pieces and maybe the weapon, depending on your choice. So with these combined, if you have a main 4 cost crit rate plus 5 subsets of crit and the extra 15% crit rate on the Cyberpunk 4 cost, this will get you between 80 to 90% total crit rate. If you do run a crit weapon instead, then crit damage 4 cost is completely fine. Just make sure you're above 80% crit rate for good measure. If you do plan to run Shorekeeper with her, cap out at 87.5%. And then for overall substat priority, aim for energy regen until 130% about, then crit rate, crit damage, attack, and basic damage bonus. As a sub DPS, meeting her energy regen needs to ult every rotation is the highest priority before her damage output. Now the Media Server fixed echoes are running crit rate 4 cost with double electro 3 cost, with min-roll, crit rate, crit damage, energy regen on everything. So here's an example stat page. With fixed Media Server echoes, we have 2.4k attack, 81.5 crit rate, and 285 to 315 crit damage, and then 134 ER. So the crit damage is going to fluctuate depending on her mode. When she's in pistol mode, she has an extra 30 crit damage, which shows up on your main stat page. And then when she's out of it, let me first have the buff expire, because when this buff is active, we have both buffs active. Okay, so expired. Now we only have 285 crit damage because she's on the ignore defense mode. So for crit rate, higher the better until 100% obviously, or 87.5 with Shorekeeper. Crit damage can push 300 to 330%. Energy recharge here is comfortable and attack is pretty comfortable. Builds with near perfect substats can achieve 100 crit rate in combat, 300 to 350 crit damage with 150% ER. Substat priority is going to be aiming for ER to 130% like we mentioned, then crit rate, crit damage, attack, basic damage bonus. Now for sequence nodes. S1. This is a 1.5 damage multiplier increase to all of her basic attacks and tactical dodges. She also gets 3 dodge stacks that restore 20 stamina each, and her final ult explosion gains immunity to interruption. This one is super minor and basically just gives dodge heal well, but it does matter if you end up going S6. S2. Intro and ult now also grant 20% team-wide damage bonus for 30 seconds, and then Resonators inflicting hack also gain 15% more damage amp, which currently is just Rebecca and Lucy. And then her hot hand passive bar, which is the one below her forte that gives her dual mode buffs, regenerates twice as fast out of combat. This S2 is going to be the most valuable stopping point for team buffing if you're willing to go just beyond the free copy. S3, she now starts to gain a little bit of damage here. So her ult gains 1.6 damage multiplier increase and 30% explosive range. Her intro now immediately fully fills her buff bar as well. This one is mostly just bland ultimate damage, so stick with S2 if you care about thresholds. S4 is 60% stat increase from her buffs, so the crit damage goes from 30 to 48, and the ignore defense goes from 15 to 24. It's quite nice. S5 is just 20 basic damage bonus, and S6, this one's really interesting. 40% increased basic damage from every source, so this may imply echoes, weapons, and self buffs from kit and or sequence nodes. If this includes echo subsets as well, then this could skyrocket her total basic damage bonus and prioritize a bit more attack percent from main stat pieces that can't roll basic damage bonus, so this would be like those 3 cost pieces. She also gains extra damage on her enhanced heavies, increased hot hand recovery for buff uptime, 1 death prevention, and then full forte on combat start. In total, S6 fully embraces her capability as a DPS, so if you're willing to invest all the way, then you can transform her into a basic damage demon. Overall, thresholds are looking at S2 and S6. Okay, now for teams and showcases. So the most obvious comp is going to be Rebecca, Lucy, and then +1 sustain. Since this guide is focused on Rebecca, there won't be a breakdown on Lucy in this video, but I will have a full guide on her shortly after, so make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. Treat this kind of like a trailer, yeah? Now, if you don't plan on picking up Lucy, that's completely fine. Rebecca is designed to be a universal sub DPS, so she can be a part of any team you currently have. The best units to receive her buffs though are heavy attack damage dealers. So characters like Augusta, Zani, and GN have great synergy with those buffs. Obviously, Zani prefers Peeb for Spectral Frazzle, but it's still an option to run Rebecca if you're not super concerned for perfect teams. Now, if you plan to play her as a main DPS, connect her with a universal damage amp buffer like Lene, or basic attack damage buffers like Sanhua for the greatest synergy. Alright, let's go through 2 showcases. So disclaimer on screen regarding Media Server TOA. First, the Cyberpunk squad. So pretty standard layout, all units S0R1 on signature weapon and signature sets. Bornea does her typical rotation, and now you can see Rebecca in full action. The full team rotation here is almost exactly 30 seconds. I noticed this while watching Lucy's debuffs on the enemy tooltip, because they last exactly 30 seconds, and rotating from ult to ult on Lucy timed out those debuffs almost right on cue. Damage from Rebecca for a sub DPS is quite good. Damage from Lucy as a main DPS is also quite good. Overall team damage is about 50% of the boss HP, which is fairly equal to the meta comps that we have right now, all within reasonable margins. Total clear time is pretty good as well, at about 1 minute 8 seconds, and with Bornea, the increased amount of tune breaks we get adds extra damage from the Cyberpunk hacks. This team feels really smooth to play, and the animations and special effects for the Cyberpunk collab characters is chef's kiss cinema. Rebecca and Lucy ults are just crazy. Now for a main DPS showcase with Rebecca. This team, we just remove Lucy and add Lene for a generalist damage amp on her outro, and to synergize with more flat damage on Tune Rupture. So, things that I found while playtesting this team. Overall, Rebecca does get a damage boost by about 60 to 70%, which is fairly significant, but she's still a sub DPS at the end of the day, so the total damage of one team rotation is about 33%. So we do need 3 full rotations to clear the boss. But hold up, each rotation from this team is slightly shorter, with 2 rotations finishing at 60 seconds flat. Total clear time was 1 minute 30, so not that far off. I'd still say pretty good and definitely clearable. So overall, very solid and balanced performance from these teams. Bornea will be the go-to sustain for more tune breaks, but Shorekeeper should not be too off from total DPS, especially because these characters are not capped on crit. Marina might lag a little bit, but still good since the team benefits from attack buffs. Alright, closing thoughts. Free Rebecca, in my opinion, is great. A performance that's almost scarily balanced with the rest of the roster, and she's able to use the standard pistols to a pretty good extent, meaning you're not pressured to grab her signature weapon. I still do recommend it, but it's not a must pull. The fact that her outro skill is also very similar to the Lene's makes her an excellent investment point that we've kind of really needed, since every recent team has really wanted Lene unless you pick up the specific sub DPSs. Let me know in the comments what you think of her, and check out my Lucy guide as well, which will be available very soon. Thank you guys for watching, enjoy Cyberpunk Collab, and we'll see you next time. Take care.